Is Phainon still worth summoning on? Well, it depends what appeals to you when considering whether you should or should not summon on a character. Let's start off with what generally appeals to people the most, that being a character's ranking on the Prydwen Tierlist, because we all know that the Prydwen Tierlist is the literal gospel of HSR. As of right now, the legendary Prydwen Tierlist considers Phainon as a T0.5 DPS, which is honestly a really good placement considering Unk was released like a year ago. But obviously him being in T0.5 means that there is someone better than him. Actually, there's like 5 other characters that are better than him. Jesus fuck, this shit is cluttered as fuck. Regardless, there's actually a good reason for why Phainon is only a T0.5 character and not a T0 character, even though it seems that they're letting literally anybody in there. You see, if we go and check out a T0 character's damage calculations, like Silverwolf level 999, and compare it to that of Phainon's damage calculations, well then we can see that Silverwolf is gonna be out here doing 2 times more damage than Phainon. Now, even though Prydwen doesn't recommend comparing calculations because these calculations are just a rough understanding of a character's DPS, because in battle there will be numerous unpredictable variables that will fluctuate at DPS's damage tremendously, now it makes a lot more sense why there's so many characters in T0 and yet Phainon is still just in T0.5. Spoiler alert, it's because he's kinda mid. Regardless, point is that if you value a character's displacement on the Prydwen tier list, well then Phainon is still a pretty good option considering he's still a quote-unquote apex character. But because there are numerous other characters that do way more damage than him, just know that if you want to summon on him, he's not going to be your best option, but rather just a viable option. Now, another aspect of a character that typically heavily determines whether someone would summon on them or not is how fun that character's playstyle is. Now, how fun a character's playstyle is incredibly subjective, but in my completely objective opinion, Phainon has a pretty fun playstyle compared to a lot of other characters in HSR, but there's definitely a lot of aspects that I feel a lot of players wouldn't like. In short, his playstyle mostly consists of getting enough core flames from his fallen Crisis heirs. RIP by the way. He mostly does this by having his teammates buff the absolute shit out of him, and then going into his ultimate states, in where he completely forgets his day 1 homies once he becomes a literal one-man army. Now, a lot of people don't like how you can use your other characters after going into his ultimate states, which I objectively believe to be a reasonable critique considering this game is a team-based gacha game where a large appeal is being able to use multiple of your favorite characters. But in my opinion, it's actually really fun for Phainon to be the only one on the field, because it actually feels like you're playing as your husband. I mean, as my husband. And because he's an absolute juggernaut while in his ultimate state, it feels like you yourself are playing as a juggernaut that can just dominate, in bed, which is really fun in my opinion. Now, people also don't like how his playstyle during his ultimate is fairly rigid and restrictive, since you can only do a couple of actions for like 7 turns. But bitch, every other character in the game only has like 1 to 2 cool moves that they can consistently use. So it's not like Phainon's playstyle is lacking anything most characters have. If anything, it's the other way around. Not to mention that if you have Cyrene, aka like his best teammates, well then Daddy can pretty much stay in his ultimate state for all of eternity. So in my opinion, Phainon's playstyle is actually pretty fun if you like feeling like a Greek god X. But if you don't like the fact that all of your other units are departed from the field, and you think that Phainon's ultimate is too restrictive, well then I don't think you'll have too much fun using Phainon. So maybe consider other options to summon on, cause he's mine. Anyways, another aspect of a character that typically determines whether someone would summon on them or not is their teammates. A character's teammates is a really important aspect of a character because their teammates heavily influence how fun their playstyle is and even how viable they are. For example, a character like Tribby can be used with pretty much anybody, so you'll be able to use her a lot more than other characters. But the only reason she can be used with everybody is because she's a basic ass support that requires no brain to use. But a character like Saber is actually really unique because she synergizes really well with characters that provide ultimate energy. Not to mention that her kits' buffs have a really awkward timing, so being able to time her buffs, her supports' buffs, and her ultimate myriad requires a decent amount of skill, which makes Saber really fun to use. But if you don't have Sunday, well, Saber is going to be extremely mid. Thus, a character's teammates determine what type of fun synergies they'll have, if any, and they also determine if that character is even viable with your specific characters. So, is Phainon versatile enough to not be a mid-ass DPS on most people's accounts, and does he have fun and unique synergies with his best teammates? Well, kinda. In my opinion, Phainon definitely has enough viable teammates for most people to be able to summon on him without breaking their accounts, since all he really needs for teammates are single target buffers like Tingyun, RMC, and I guess even DHPT would count. And even then, team-wide buffers like Tribby, Robin, Cypher, and of course Cyrene are also really good teammate options for him. But he barely has any synergy with these characters, since again, Phainon doesn't actually have any chemistry with his friend group, he just uses them to get to the top and then throws them out into the streets. SMH, so fucking sad, let's actually cancel Phainon, bruh. Thus, Phainon has plenty of viable and free-to-play teammates you can use him with, but his synergies with them is nigh non-existent, since his playstyle consists of him being a one-man army. Now, everything I've said up until now are the pros and cons of present-day Phainon, but what about Phainon in the future? Will he still be a Giga Chat juggernaut, or will he be a beta chud? Well, if we take a look at Phainon's kits, we can see that all bro needs is single target buffers and skill damage buffers, since he needs single target buffers to get his ultimate, and he wants skill damage buffers because that's how he does the majority of his damage. So as long as those types of supports continue to release in the game, well then technically Phainon should be set for life, right? But here's the problem. Actually, here's the 4 problems with Phainon's longevity. The first problem is that single target supports will most likely continue to be released, quite often as well, but skill damage supports in specific are like non-existent, bruh. Ceridra is literally the only dedicated skill damage supports, so chances are that in the future, there won't be plenty of skill damage supports that'll be able to keep Phainon in the meta. The second problem is that even if skill damage supports do continue to consistently be released, chances are they might not be strong enough for them to keep Phainon in the meta. The third problem is that even if they do provide ridiculously powerful skill buffs because of power creep, who's to say Phainon's mid-ass 3.0 multipliers will let him be more powerful than whatever 5.0 skill-based DPS that releases. And the fourth problem is that his best support by far is Cyrene, who's even better than other broken-ass supports like Sparkle or Sunday, which leads me to believe that in the future, Cyrene will continue to be an even better support for Phainon than even brand new supports. But if Cyrene is gonna have to be used on Phainon teams because she'll be his best support even in the future, well then that means that Phainon teams are still gonna need a shit ton of Crisis Heirs / Remembrance characters, since that's what Cyrene needs. But the chances of those types of characters releasing in the future that are also single target / skill based supports is damn near non-existent. So in the future, Phainon might be fucked if any of these problems happen, which I believe at least one of them will, so his longevity is pretty much screwed. Anyways, point is, as of right now, bro is actually a pretty good pick if you care about the Prydwen Tierlist, but as with most units, he'll probably get mocked by other characters in the future. Now if you don't really care about that because you fuck with the fact that you feel like an absolute powerhouse during his ultimates because of his sick ass world-ending animations, well then I'd recommend summoning on bro. But again, if you like synergizing with your different allies, well then bro ain't the character for you since he literally throws all of them to the streets. Anyways, that's it for today. Goodbye.